Last week, of course, on Thursday, Donald Trump gave a speech in Iowa to celebrate the Republican House officially passing his one big beautiful bill. And in the days that followed, a lot of things that Donald Trump had said during that speech went national. Of course, he used a highly anti Semitic slur. He admitted that he gave Iran permission to bomb a U.S. base in Qatar. And he also said of Democrats, quote, "I hate them." Only Donald Trump could say all of those horrible things in one speech, and then 5 days later, the entire country forgets that any of it happened. Only Donald Trump. Any other person, any other politician, and those statements, any one of them would haunt them for the rest of their careers. We're not even a week past this, and everybody has forgotten and moved on. That is how crazy shit is right now in this country. But not the only crazy things he said, because we're also still getting reports of more very weird things he said. And one of those things happens to be him basically admitting to a symptom of clinical narcissism. It's when Donald Trump decided to, for no reason, talk about the pet name that he has for his wife, Melania. And I emphasize for no reason because this wasn't a topic in the speech. It's not like somebody in the audience or a reporter asked him, "What do you call your wife?" This mentally deranged, convicted felon simply went off the rails and said this. 1 year ago, I remember saying to our great First Lady, I said, First Lady, I call her First Lady because it makes me feel good. First Lady, isn't it terrible saying goodnight, First Lady, my darling? Because it reminds me that I'm president. That's why now I said, First Lady, it's terrible nobody wants to join our military force, blah, blah, blah. So he calls her First Lady, and he admits, of course, that this was a year ago. And as anyone with a brain understands, a year ago, she was not First Lady. She was former First Lady, Melania Trump. And according to reports, also, she didn't share a bed with Donald. She had her separate sleeping area in a different room at Mar-a-Lago where they, of course, were living. So there's no possible way he could have rolled over and said, First Lady, my darling, because he would have had to text her or call her or get up out of his bed, walk down the hall and go to her bed. So right off the bat, story's not true. Also, he's wrong. She was First Lady because it reminds me I'm president. You weren't, though. You absolutely were not president at the time. And if you got your time frames mixed up and you were actually trying to say that you do it now, once again, Melania's only spent like 2 weeks total in the White House with you. There have been multiple reports that Melania's just straight up not there. She's missing, basically. So you're not rolling over at night and calling her First Lady. But again, it's not that he calls her First Lady, right? I have no problem with that. Anybody can have any kind of weird pet name for their spouse or significant other. That's up to you. If your spouse is cool with it, whatever, roll with it. What gets me is why he says he does it. And that's the important part. That is the symptom of the illness. He says, I call her First Lady because it makes me feel good. Because it reminds me that I'm president. So you're admitting that this little pet name you have for your wife is not for her benefit, it's for yours, to feed your narcissism, to remind you that you're important, that you have a job to do, and that you matter. So you use this name regardless of whether or not she wants it or likes it or enjoys it. You're admitting to using it only because it makes you feel good. Folks, that is a symptom of his narcissism, perhaps a symptom of his deeper mental problems. And that's what we have to look for when we hear these statements. When we see these headlines like this one, the headline on this was, "Isn't it terrible? Trump reveals what he calls Melania in private just before bed." No, Trump reveals he has clinical narcissism and he tells us his number one symptom. There's your headline, HuffPost. That's how you address these issues. By not talking about it in terms of the cognitive issues suffered by Donald Trump, you're normalizing it. You're acting like the psychological problems, the neurological problems don't matter or don't exist. And that's a problem. And this is from a liberal outlet. Do better. Do not talk about Donald Trump's posts on Truth Social. Do not talk about what he says in speeches or to the press without framing it in terms of his psychological problems. Because there are many, and they are evident, and he is not shy about exhibiting those symptoms for the world to see. For weeks, the headlines have focused on how Trump's so-called beautiful bill would gut Medicaid. But almost no one's talking about MAGA loyalists slipping in the most dangerous legal loophole of all. Go to ground.news/ROF to see how they're trying to block federal judges from enforcing court orders against the executive branch unless you pay a bond first. Highly credible sources warn most Americans can't actually afford to do that, so if this bill passes and Trump violates the law, it wouldn't matter. This is the GOP's flood the zone playbook in action. Create chaos up top with Medicaid cuts and immigration panic so the real authoritarian moves fly under the radar. And it's exactly why I think Ground News is the best tool to expose these blind spots before it's too late. My partners have built the only app and website pulling in news from across the globe, then breaking down each source's bias, credibility, and the news the right tries to bury. And considering most people take the first headline they see as fact, if you're reading the news somewhere else, their browser extension will actually flag the source's bias and link other credible reports so you can verify the information. Ground News is a better version of how we're already staying informed. So I got my viewers 40% off the same unlimited access Vantage plan that I've been using. That's only $5 per month when you go to ground.news/ROF or scan my QR code. With at least another 4 years of this, they're counting on you to be distracted. This app is how you stay focused.